Welcome to Glitch Cube. We're a gaming podcast, and each week we take a deeper look into the art of video games. I'm Christian.
And I'm Chris.
And welcome back, you guys. It feels like I haven't talked to you in a long time, even though it's only been a week for y'all. So, before we go into today's episode, why don't you give us a little bit of an update on what's going on with you, Chris?
So, I've been kind of a little bit everywhere with games lately. I think to kind of like condense it, most of my time has been spent in this game called Valheim. It's if anyone's been watching Twitch or
it's everywhere.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I mean, it seems like every week they're selling another 1 million copies of this game. I think right now they're at 4 million copies sold, and it's only a 5-person team. Like, it's crazy.
That's wow. And it's still an alpha, right? Like, it's not even full release.
Yeah, it's not. It's early access still. But I mean, for the most part, it's polished compared to other survival games I've played. It's done really well, and I've had my fair share. Like, I've played a little bit of Ark, didn't like it. Played Rust, didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
The only survival game I really ever stuck around with was Raft and Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
This game, it's weird. When I booted it up, it gave me this wonder of when you first played Oblivion or World of Warcraft, where you're just into this lush environment and it's like, where do I go? What do I do?
Right.
And I was like, this is kind of cool, but kind of scary. And I first played it, like, even though my wife bought it for us, she wasn't on at the time. I'm like, oh, I'll test it out. I was actually kind of worried because I'm like in this like beautiful grassy field and there's a forest to the side of me, and it's like, you need to find these bosses and put their trophies here. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going exploring, and it's just little things come popping out at you. You got to make a little house at night. You get cold, and when you're cold, your stamina doesn't regenerate fast enough, and same if you're wet. And there's tendencies in this game that it's like, it's kind of annoying because it's like, God damn it, if I'm wet, I can't run like I can if I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's a little bit of debuffs going on and stuff like that. And we first played it for maybe like an hour or two, and we're like, okay, this is kind of cool. It's kind of basic. Like, there's not much to it. And then once we beat our first boss, we unlocked to go mining,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because every boss kind of leads you to a new biome. And so the first one you start out is called the Meadows. It's very peaceful. There's not that many variants of enemy types there. Next one is Black Forest, which introduces trolls, which are big dudes that can fuck your shit up if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go mining. So you get introduced to like tin and bronze, which you make, or copper, and then you can make bronze from that. Better armor, better housing stuff. Like, you're able to build a lot more. So we have this little base going on, right? We have a little house, a warehouse, a little farm, all enclosed. Like, it's cool. I love our little house so far. And the map is huge. It's randomly generated. And like, we have about 60, maybe 70 hours into it now.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and we've only got it, I think, like 2 weeks ago. But we don't even have maybe like 10% of the map explored. Like, it's ridiculously huge. And the thing that sucks is sometimes the bosses can be pretty far from where you are. So now, once we beat the boss in the forest, you basically have to go to the swamp. And the swamp is a little bit harder because it's mostly all water. So your stamina is crap.
Mm-hmm.
And you deal with poison there too. Enemies are a little bit smarter because they have weapons and they can hit you. But it introduces iron. And iron introduces a lot more to the game, like obviously better equipment, but also cooler stuff to build for your base. And it allows you to do stone cutting, which you'll get a lot of stones in the game. But that's how you build castles, because now you can build actual stable stuff. It's cool. Oh my God, I love this game.
Mm.
And then like last night we played, and the place after the swamp is called the Plains. And imagine this beautiful field, right? Red flowers, cool stones sticking out of the ground. And you hear a buzzing, and you hit like boom. You're like, what's that? Oh my God, my health is like at half. Boom, hit again, you're dead. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Mm.
And there's these little things called like death mosquitoes, right? They're like these big mosquitoes. And you can hear it buzzing, but you're like, what is that? Like, you don't see it. And depending on your like armor, they could one shot you. But for me, it was like 3 hits and I was down. And I'm like, dude, I have like the best armor I can get at that point in the game. So it's crazy how like jumping into a different biome could really wreck you if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how the AI feels like it progresses the further you get in the biomes. Like enemies seem like they get smarter, like they utilize their shields better and their attacks. Like it throws you off. I love the game. It's crazy how an early access game like that has so much to it, even though it feels so empty. I feel like it's a really good example of a good early access game, which I feel like we haven't had in a very long time.
Right.
I feel like a lot of people have been burnt by early access, and this really shows like, hey, good stuff can be made with a small team without a lot of money in it initially.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you look at AAA games that come out broken, it's like, this is crazy.
Right.
You know? But yeah, most of my time has been into that. I was starting to play Control, but honestly, it's cool, but I just can't get into it. So I'm trying to beat it because I want to experience the story.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, I started Xenoblade Chronicles again. I played it on the Wii, didn't get far. I have it on the Switch now, and I've been playing it. And honestly, I really like it. I don't know why I waited this long to play it. So I'm pretty excited to see how the story goes in it.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
What about you? What you got going on?
I feel like I'm going through like a weird art renaissance period for myself. I don't know. Like
Nice.
it's been really exciting. I mean, you know that I've been doing these drawing challenges for 2 months straight now, which is crazy. But I'm gonna take a break. I do want to do another month, but I'm gonna take a month off of doing the daily drawings and really focus on giving myself some time to actually create like a good piece over a couple days. And I want to kind of channel that into this channel, actually. So my primary focus for this next month coming up and what I've been kind of looking into is potential merch, right? So this could be a little bit of
Yay.
a hype thing for our our episode on our channel right now, because I think it'll be really exciting to have some merch available for you guys. I mean, we're both creative people and we're making a creative podcast, so why not have something for you guys to wear and own on yourself? So the goal for this time is a couple shirts, some stickers, something. I'm just going to start letting my brain kind of wander and see what fits our overall look and feel and our vibe that we're trying to go for, and kind of see where that goes. So it's been really fun just playing around with art again and just really trying to push myself every single day with every single piece that I'm making. And I feel like I've made a lot of progress over these last couple of months, and I've been really happy with what I've made. In February, I did the world building challenge where I kind of created or fleshed out the whole idea for the game that I want to make. So I have that idea now. I know what I want it to look like. So I think I'm going to kind of let that one simmer a little bit more and kind of polish it. So it's not more of creating like a crunch time where I'm speeding things up and just rushing it. I want to take my time with it and really make it something. So I'm just going to let that one simmer for a while, maybe just focus on creating more art to really be able to convey my message clearly. So that's what I've been focusing on lately. And what I want to make sure that I keep my focus on over the next month. And when stuff comes out, we'll definitely keep you guys updated. We're going to be posting on our socials and all that. And I think it's going to be really exciting to see what gets created from this. So I'm jazzed about that one. It's going to be really fun.
I'm excited to see it. I always like your art, and it's cool seeing the past like 2 months kind of. It's weird. I've noticed some changes in it, and I feel like it's becoming, I don't want to say more detailed, but I feel like I can see like from when you first showed me like your drawings to like now, it's like I can see kind of like a change in it in a good way, and it's cool seeing that evolution, because I feel like whenever I look at art, I always see like where people are at now, which is like, obviously they've had years of it and they're all done, but like seeing yours go through it, it's like, whoa, I'm actually seeing like this evolution takes place, and it's kind of cool seeing that. Like I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm trying to evolve my style and kind of update it, I guess. I've been really focusing a lot on line weights and just trying to figure out something that I can do that's unique to me. I mean, really, all art nowadays is some sort of rip on something else. But like, if you look at some artists, like, who drew it, regardless of the fact, or it's like a Disney art or a Ghibli art or whatever, right? Like, they have their own distinct style. So that's what I'm kind of doing. I'm trying to narrow it down and figure out what exactly is me and make sure I can keep that consistent. So these little like daily drawing challenges, because every single art piece that I've done so far the last 2 months has been day of art. So one day drawing challenges to try and get it out there. So kind of like turning my brain off for a second and just focusing on getting something out has allowed me to, I guess, not overthink it and just let my brain go with it. And I feel like there's a distinct look that I've been able to accomplish that I really like right now. So I want to kind of develop that even further.
Oh yeah. And I wanted to bring up too, because we were talking about like giving back to the community and stuff. If any of you out there have any like interests, like, I don't know, what do you like, stickers or shirts or anything like that, just let us know, because it'd be cool to also like create stuff like whatever you guys want, like what kind of, I guess you can call medium you would like the art on, or anything like that. Like any ideas, like we're always open for anything like that, because I want to start getting more involved with the community more, and I'm really excited with where this podcast is going. So I'm happy.
Same. Like, I mean, I know what I would want to wear, but I have a very basic wardrobe, so I'd be very curious to see what other people are interested in. Do you guys like hats? Do you like sweaters, hoodies, shirts, socks, pins? You name it, we'll figure out how to make it. So yeah, just let us know, hit us up, and we'll see what's going on. Maybe we'll have a little poll coming up on Instagram too to see what people like and what they're interested in.
Good idea.
Yeah, that'll be fun. All right, so this week we're going into the wonderful, speedy world, the exciting, flashy adventure of speedrunning. Now, speedrunning is crazy to me. I don't know. It's one of those concepts that I've been really curious about, but I've never really looked into too much. And it's not something that I've actually tried myself, or at least I didn't think I was a part of this speedrunning community until I really started to kind of take a little deeper look into it and kind of try and dissect the mentality behind speedrunning itself. And there's certain aspects of it where I can definitely see myself playing into without even realizing it, subconsciously kind of falling into those same tropes. But I am very curious to see your experience with speedrunning and what you think of it.
So for me, I've always enjoyed it. Do I sit there and like follow like certain speedrunners and all of that? Not really, just because I have so much going on right now. But like when GDQ is up, or like big events like that, like I'll tune in for the most part, like, and watch it, because it's always been fascinating to me. I'm more a person that wants to sit there and explore games, but there's definitely some games where I'm like, I want to do this quick. I know I look it up to see like on how long to beat, or where records are kept, where it's like, did I do this fast enough? And there's someone that beat it in like 2 minutes compared to my like 8 hours. And I'm like, God damn it. Like,
That's how I felt with
never
Dark Souls
fast enough.
2. I hated it.
Dude, like some games like people beat are crazy. And the one thing that I will say though is like, if there were times that I wanted to do speed running, but it would be like any percent. I think that's what it is. Like, or no, 100% runs. That's what I would like to do, because I'm a person that likes to find everything. So for me, beating a game completely 100%, it's interesting to see how long it takes people to beat those. Like, I think of all of the percent or any of those kind of challenges, I think the 100% ones to me are always fascinating. I definitely think that they can be very long and get kind of boring, so they're not the most exciting to watch. But I think it's definitely fascinating. And it's crazy how people find ways to kind of break games and finish them faster. And some of the challenges people have are crazy. Like, I remember growing up and like, we used to create challenges for games to make it harder or faster and stuff like that. But we never looked at it like super competitively, where we're just kind of like, oh, let's see if we can do this, like, I don't know. It's weird how big speedrunning really got. And it's crazy. Like, every time there's an event, how much money they raise too. Like, it's awesome. But I think compared to like esports, I'm definitely more interested in speedrunning than esports, honestly.
So you brought up a couple things. You brought up the idea of challenges, and you said any percent and 100%. For those people who aren't familiar with the speedrunning community, what does that actually mean? What does that entail? Those two concepts.
So 100% basically means that you are doing everything the game has. Some games have it where they have percentages in like the options menu, so like how far you are. Other games, it's like doing all the side quests, doing everything the game has, like the full 100. And usually that's a very long process depending on the game. Like, I've seen some 100% for like longer games, and it's like, oh my God, these people are playing this for like so many hours straight, and it's crazy.
Right.
Like, there's no stopping them. And so that's 100%. Any percent is basically just beating the game at any percent, but usually they add other challenges or other things onto that any percent, because, I mean, it basically comes down to, are they going to glitch it or are they not? Glitching it means they find some way to beat the game faster than it was intended, kind of breaking off the highway onto like a side street or something. It's kind of the difference. There's so many assets now that it's crazy. But those are the two, like, those really stick out to me the most, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many, like you said, there's so many different aspects and different challenges associated with speedrunning nowadays. And I kind of wanted to go into like the idea of the glitch one a little bit more. So glitching, I mean, when you glitch speed run a game, you're looking for ways to break the game, meaning like you're looking for ways to kind of break the map itself and change things up, or like get somewhere that you're not intended to go to just yet. Like there's that famous one in Ocarina of Time, right? Where if you jump at the door in the Temple of Time, I believe, at a certain angle, you can basically fall behind the world and walk to a different area. Now, for some people, like that might be considered cheating, and that's why they had to create this different category of speedrunning, of glitch running, because you're not following the desired path of the designers themselves. You're finding ways to kind of break the game down as much as you possibly can. And to me, that's insane. I'm sorry. Like how many times did you have to jump at corner? Like, how do you even find those things in order to exploit them? The amount of exploration that had to have been done for these games is insane. And I think that's one aspect of speedrunning that I really do admire is it's not just about beating a game quickly, it's about knowing a game 100%. It's about knowing the world around you, knowing the map, and being able to manipulate every single aspect, every single tool that has been given to you by the designers to better your run and complete the game as fast as possible. And it's funny, like the intended tools could be that maybe some of the polygons don't match up on this map, and you're able to kind of creep your way in and go behind the world. So now you're kind of peeking behind the curtain. And there's actually, this wasn't a speed run, but I thought it was kind of interesting. Like, for instance, with Ico, that game, in Ico, you can actually fall through the world and then you'll see assets just kind of floating under the world that are just there waiting for you to trigger them. So it's kind of funny to see some of these things. And there's some assets that actually don't get used ever, but because it didn't break the game, they didn't remove them. So you can kind of like find different things, which is kind of cool. But
That's cool.
it's one of those things, like finding those weird glitches and those little spots to then break this game. I'm wondering, like, was that an accident that just got exploited, or do these people really hunt down and jump at every corner and every angle until something happens? Because sometimes with those glitch runs, if you don't hit it just right, you're not going to get it. So it's kind of weird to think, like, how many times did they jump at this corner before they figured it out? Or was it just a random happen chance that they then went back and they tried to replicate it? And if they were able to replicate it, then they designed a run around it. Right?
That's what I wonder. I'm like, I'll see people jump into walls and I'm like, how did they know that? Like the first person to find it, were they just jumping on walls like from every angle, hoping to find a glitch? Like it's not something that you can just know or see. I mean, sometimes I know that you can see patterns that are a little different, mostly like older games, right? Like for the N64 or PlayStation, like you can kind of see when textures are a little different than others. So that makes sense. But some games, there's no difference. And it's just like, how did they find that?
Yeah, it's just so bizarre. And they had to have spent so much time, but that does speak to the love of the game. So even though they are trying to break this game, they do have to love that game first in order to want to devote that much time to it, which I think is just a really funny aspect to this, because thinking about how many hours they spent playing this game in order to get the smallest number as far as time. So, like, those two things don't really correlate to me, right? Like, the whole goal is to have the quickest time. But if you really look at their actual playtime of the game, it's probably hundreds and hundreds of hours. So they can figure out how to do it in 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. But it's cool. I mean, people are passionate about every different thing. So teach their own, I guess.
Yeah, like I'll watch people like kind of try and speed run, and you'll see them like they'll get kind of far, like 15 minutes in, 18 minutes in, and then I do one thing, they mess up, right? They have to restart. And I know with some games, like especially with like Minecraft speed running, right? There's like a certain time that you have to get to the different biomes, like the Nether or the End and stuff like that. Like, yeah, like 17 minutes or something. If you don't make it within that time, it's your chances of beating it, the record, go down. And it's interesting seeing that, because I'll watch people and it's like they get super close or they get to the next biome way before the intended time, but it's not like they can find the other one just as fast. And then if they spend too much, they have to restart over. So in the end, these people are playing these games for probably over 1,000 hours just trying to beat records. It's crazy.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, just jumping in real quick. Just want to say, first of all, thank you for continuing listening. And obviously you're enjoying it because you've reached the middle of our episode. But Before we continue on, we just wanted to remind you all that if you are truly enjoying what you're hearing and you want to learn some more about us, you can find us on social medias, and we have links in our description. And you can find me and all the drawings that I'm doing on Instagram at Kieran, and that's Keuran. What about you, Chris?
You can find me at Sloppy Cube on Instagram. That's Sloppy and Cube at the end of it. I do all retro games or just games in general. So if that's your thing, check me out. You can also message me about ideas and anything because I love talking.
Yep. We both really enjoy talking, obviously, because we are recording a podcast. So if you want to join in the conversation, please reach out to us on the Discord, and let's get right back into this episode. Speedrunning feels like it's kind of a newer idea, but it's not exactly newer, right? So my question is, where did this come from? Like, what's the origins of speedrunning, and how did we get to where we are now, where it's live streamed and raises a bunch of money for different foundations and whatnot? Like, what's the humble beginning?
So I was kind of looking around, and some people were saying, like, classic Atari games had it where, or arcade games in general, when you think about it, they had time trials, they had timing and points. And you could say, oh, this is where speedrunning kind of started for the speeds. But I guess there's this game called Dragster on the Atari. And it actually, the Activision made it, and it kind of highlighted beating the game quickly. And because it's a very short game, obviously, it's an Atari game. So
Yeah.
If you were able to beat the game within 6 seconds, you could send a picture to Activision and you would join the Dragster Club. So basically, like the speedrunning Hall of Fame in Activision, kind of with their game, which was cool.
Yeah.
And I think this was like in the 80s. So it was kind of like the first time a company or anything kind of pointed out, like, hey, beat this game in a short amount of time and we'll put you on our little club, which was cool, because you look back in the 80s, you didn't really see that too often, especially with like big developers. They just made games and that was it. So seeing like, oh, hey, like they're actually interested in someone beating their game super quick, it was cool, kind of created a little community. I guess you could say the first time speedrunning really had a event or competition, you could really call the Nintendo World Championship speedrunning, because they had to go through, I think it was Super Mario, I think it was Zelda, and Tetris within a time frame, right? And basically you had to get a certain amount of points in each game in order to finish it quickly. It was Mario, Rad Racer, and Tetris. That's what it was.
Okay.
And you had to beat it all in under 6 minutes.
Oh, wow.
But thing is, because these championships were kind of held, like, not often, but more than once, people started realizing that you could get all your points in Tetris and win. So everyone was trying to find ways to beat Super Mario and Rad Racer very quickly so they could just rush to Tetris.
Okay.
Get all the points that way. And that was kind of like the first competition for speedrunning that I found. Because there's definitely like communities out there for like arcade games and like, oh, how fast can we do this race and all that kind of stuff. But that was kind of the first one. And then I feel like with modern day speedrunning where it was like recorded and stuff, Doom, honestly. ID Software, which obviously we did a video on them not too long ago, incorporated a video recording function in the game that allowed recordings to be saved onto the file. And the thing was, is back then you have to remember files are small,
Mhm.
but uploading them took forever because everyone had dial-up,
Right.
right? So even a 1 megabyte file was going to take longer than a minute.
Mhm.
You know, like I grew up kind of in that era with dial-up. Thankfully, I
Same.
was kind of young. Well, actually, no, I feel like dial-up went up into the 2000s, but
Yeah.
it was tough. Let's put it that way. Couldn't really do online games.
No,
Um,
not at all.
So being able to upload a file this small of a recording of your run was insane. It was different, you know, and Romero capitalized on that. He was like, this is cool being able to see like what the community's doing and all that kind of stuff. So he created like little like communities and outlets for it. And that was kind of like the first form, I think, of modern speedrunning, honestly. But yeah, that seems like the beginnings of it. And then once the internet started getting bigger and websites were being made, obviously, I think Compete N was the first website to really track speed and challenge runs.
Okay.
Like there were other websites, but it looked like Compete N was the biggest one. That's how it was in like early 2000s, mid 2000s. It was just websites where people posted runs, but you have to remember back then, going back to the recording part of it, with other games, the files were too big or too long, so authenticating your speedrun was hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody could say, oh, I beat the game in 10 minutes. Okay, where's the proof?
Right.
So as time went on, that became the big thing was, okay, how are we going to make it? How are we going to prove that they actually did it? And once recording software came out, like Fraps and like OBS, it became a lot easier to track. So it's interesting looking back. Like I look at the Doom era for like what we have now and seeing how it evolved from that to now. It's crazy. You know, streaming makes it so easy to prove it that it's almost impossible to fake it, really.
Right. But people do try still. A lot of people have tried to fake speedrunning, and they'll splice their videos and kind of cheat the system a little bit to make it look like their time is a lot shorter than what it was, which I find very, I don't know, interesting or kind of weird that people are trying to game a system that they're already gaming, right? Like
it's all about the clout.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, right? I don't really know what you get out of it, but if
fame, fortune,
so much fortune,
free games
is good, right? I guess that equates to it.
I do it for free games. Yeah. Hell, I'll make sure my blindfold's super thin, and I'll play everything blindfolded.
Yeah, that's another weird thing that is now becoming popular is not just playing speedrunning games and seeing how fast you can do it, but now doing it blindfolded as well. So,
the last GDQ, I think it was GDQ, like a month ago or something, there was a guy that did Mario 64, the 16-star run, but he did it blindfold. And basically, you have to glitch it, and when you get to your 16th star, it kind of teleports you to the end, right? I was watching him do the first couple stages blindfolded, and I'm like, the muscle memory is insane. And I was sitting there thinking, like, this guy has a see-through, like, it wasn't a bandana, but it was like covering his eyes, a blindfold. And I'm like, it has to be see-through. There's no way. And it was like, it was insane. Like, obviously he would mess up. Obviously.
Oh, yeah, he's blindfolded. I'd hope so.
For the most part, he was able to do it. Like, there were times where you had to get the timing right for the jump to angle it to land on a platform, and he did it. And I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. And like the announcer was saying, oh, it has to do with the sounds. Like you hear a certain like beat in the background, like of the music, and you know where the platform is going to be at that beat. And I was like, dude, like that's so much thinking.
That's crazy.
Did this person just sit there think blindfolded, like, I'm gonna try and mix already an interesting challenge with a blindfold? And I mean, it's smart because no one else does it. So if you're able to capitalize on doing things blindfolded, then I mean, you're number one in a category, and that's saying something. You could really do a lot with that. But at the same time, you're sitting there doing muscle memory, listening to sounds. I can only imagine practicing for 100 hours, like a first stage in a Mario game, hearing the same damn song for 100 hours, trying to time your jumps with a certain beat or sound in the background.
I think I would lose interest.
Props to people for doing that, but it's like, I couldn't do it. I feel like it would ruin games for me. Like, there's some games I could see like, ooh, this would be a fun one to do something weird with. But games that, weren't slowly created for speedrunning, it just seems like, for me, it would kill me. It would burn me out.
Same.
There is one speedrun that I do want to say, which is crazy. Highly recommend watching it because it's short. It's within like 2 minutes. And it's glitchless, which is even crazier. But so I think it was like 2 years ago, there was this game called Getting Over It came out. And I mean, this was kind of the first game that capitalized on that jumping the different platforms.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
Like Jump King and stuff like that. Well, Getting Over It, you're in a bucket or a cauldron. And you have this huge two-handed hammer. And you're basically trying to climb up in the game with this hammer, and you have to kind of like hook on to the environment to get to the top, right? Or project yourself up there. The game is hard as fuck. Yeah. I've tried it. It gets aggravating. This person was able to do it in about 2 minutes or less. Just like the video, you see it's just going straight up. I'm like, this person must have spent so long trying to get it going so fast. It's actually really fun to watch. Even for someone that's not super into this kind of stuff, I was like, this is crazy. Especially knowing how difficult the game is. Like those, like Jump King and all that, it's interesting watching people like beat these games really fast.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been curious with the speedrunning as far as like nowadays it seems that some games are actually starting to be designed with speedrunning in mind. And it's just, I don't even know how to begin designing a game that way. It just seems really interesting where like game developers know, okay, someone's going to try and manipulate this game and break it. So now let's figure out how to kind of cater to them and give them something exciting or something new to play with. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Where as far as certain developers actually starting to design games with speedrunning in mind?
I think it's becoming more prevalent, especially with indie games. You don't really see it too much in AAA games, but with indie games, they do it because they know people appreciate their games more because they're able to do this, right? Also, it's more exposure. So I think adding the option to glitch into something or to make it a speedrunning game has definitely become more prevalent in the past couple of years. And, people will find these glitches or bugs, and I would say maybe 80% of the time they don't fix it. There's definitely been some games where they have patched, and I know the speedrun community has gotten mad about it. Because it ruins everything. I forgot what the game, but I remember
Hollow Knight was a big one. With
oh, that's right. That might have been the one.
Yeah, like there was a pretty big exploit that was found during Hollow Knight to kind of make a glitch speedrun, where they were able to kind of path differently than what the developers had originally anticipated or desired for the path that you're supposed to take. And they found it through the speedrunning community and actually removed that ability to do it, which is kind of crazy.
That's
I mean, just let it be. It's not breaking the game. right? Like
Yeah.
it's one person's experience of the game. But I'm wondering, like, with speedrunning in mind, when you're developing a game, are you taking away certain aspects of the game that you would have then put in, right? Like, is it are
Mm.
you removing content? Are you making things easier? Are you designing challenges for people who are as dexterous as speedrunners and then making it harder for people who aren't used to those kind of mechanics? So I think that's kind of like an interesting thing to kind of think about and when designing a game or when just looking at games in general with speedrunning in mind. So
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like, I don't know. It's crazy how almost every game can be really done as a speed run when you think
mhm.
about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be curious to see where speedrunning goes in the future. What other tropes are people are going to do? I mean, they've already designed robots to do speed runs. We've done blindfolded speed running. We've seen so many different things, and I'm curious to see like where because it's going to continue changing and growing. And
Mhm.
what other games might come out. Maybe there's going to be just speedrunning exclusive games that are going to be out because people want the exposure of like GDC and or GDQ and those kind of other areas. So that would be interesting because I don't think anyone's actually done that yet because they're still keeping in mind of the general audience of gamers. Most people aren't going to try and speedrun their game, but I would be curious to see if maybe another kind of like Dragster comes out where as soon as it gets released, they get like they announce like, oh, anybody who can beat this game in this time gets, shout outs on their social media or whatever it may be, or they get credited in the next games or in patches, their names get added to a list of potential dragsters or top players or whatever it may be. So they kind of get their clout that way. It could be kind of cool.
So
Mm.
I remember, and I mean, I don't know if this was specifically made for speedrunning, but there was a game called Speedrunners where it was like a 4-person race against each
Oh, yeah.
other
Yeah.
kind of game. I mean, that could be like, oh, this is like competing who can do it faster. But now looking at it, it's like, well, it's kind of like any racing game, you
Or
know?
like whenever you do
It-
a game and there's a ghost that you battle, so it's your previous time, right? Like,
yeah. Coming back to what you were saying about, if they're going to make a game specifically for it, I think a lot of the creativeness and experimenting with games that aren't meant to be broken is kind of what drives the community a lot of the
that's true.
time. Because when I'm watching people that do speed runs, when they try to find a game that is new to them or something, they're trying to find ways to break it or ways to get around something. If a game was created for that reason, I mean, yeah, it would be fun exploring and finding all the different things you could break. And I mean, if the developer would make it where, say, there's 100 or more choices, like it would be fascinating, but would a developer actually do all of that? Like I feel like it'd be hard for them to make that because you basically have to create a very breakable game.
Right.
And I mean, as cool as that sounds, it also sounds like you have to make sure that the game's not completely broken. So you could create like a lot of obstacles that are like 100% like, they can't be breakable. But I feel like if you threw too many things in there that people could exploit, that it could, I don't know, maybe mess up the game somehow. But I mean, that could also come with the territory of it.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Yeah, I think the interesting speedruns to watch actually are the ones in which it was games that weren't intended to be broken like that. So finding those exploits
yeah.
is part of the fun, or actually it's all of the fun, I would say. So designing a game with speedrunning in mind and changing it, I think that's where maybe it would probably kind of die out. It's almost like whenever this is it jumped in my head right now, but like whenever that commercial of Ronald McDonald decided to go like stage surfing, then like people were,
What?
like there's a thing like, okay, that was super cool for rock music or musician to go out and jump and do stage surfing, right?
Oh,
But then, or
God.
crowd surfing. And then Ronald McDonald did it in a commercial, and everyone was like, okay, now this is dead. This is boring now. So I wonder if like this is going to be if a game gets designed with speedrunning specifically in mind, where you make mechanics that can be exploited and broken on purpose, maybe that's like the crowd surfing Ronald, right? Like
Yeah.
it just loses all of its interest and it's no longer exciting for people.
It's like the boomer trying to hang out with the Gen Zs, like at a meetup or something. You know,
Right.
it's like, I want to be cool.
Yeah,
And then
it's so swag.
it's like that meme with the skateboard.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, it is a very interesting. It's an interesting thing to see. So I mean, to me, it equates back to high scoreboards or just getting known as the best player of a game. And now with everything being recorded, it's just easier for people to get speedruns out there, get things watched, get things validated, and just kind of keep pushing that community further and further to do even faster runs of these games and find new exploits and get them out there and be the first one to find this exploit. I think that's the draw of it.
I'm like thinking now what really got me into watching speedrunning, and I hate to admit it, but so I think this was a few years back. There was someone speedrunning, I think Tumba or Tumba 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you can easily find this online because it's pretty. I think it's like one of the moments in GDQ that really stand out. There was this one. He, like, you know how they have the couch speaker?
Yeah.
They like speak for the person. Well, he just kept talking and talking and talking, and the player, like, you could see on the video, like, he kept looking at the camera like, oh my God, like, can you, like, you know, like, you're talking too much, right? Like, it was really distracting, but it's kind of funny, but it's a little cringy too, but it's I found it really funny.
That's actually really funny.
And, you know, you just see the buildup and you see him like lose focus of the game. And he's like, can you please be quiet? And it's like, you just see this like silence from that person that was talking. And I'm like, oh my God, this is what? Like, and it's weird because this is the one thing that stands out about like speedrunning stuff to me, like to this day. Like, I don't know why, but it just, every time I think about speedrunning, I think of that moment.
That's funny.
And
yeah,
it's really funny to watch. Like, it's like that cringe humor.
Well, because right now speedrunning has been made into such a social thing that you're sharing with people, and with live streaming and all that, like, people expect to talk to you while playing games. So this guy being like, I need you to stop. on something that's being filmed and streamed or watched by a bunch of people. That's just super funny.
See, I would be like the jerk if I was on the couch watching someone play. I'm like, no, you should have jumped at that like a second sooner. You missed it by half a second. You're off a nanosecond. You need to restart. Like, just start yelling at the screen while
or
you're
just
playing,
randomly be like, and no. Just to kind of
right before they make the jump, be like, do it now. No.
That'd be so messed up. We get kicked out real fast.
We'd be kicked off that couch so quick.
Yep. But that would actually be pretty funny. And you could be the next video of announcer gets kicked out of.
I'll be viral, baby.
There you go. All right, everybody. That's going to do it for us this week. That was actually a really cool little conversation about speedrunning. It's one of those things that I still want to look into more because I'm just so curious about the psychology of it. And maybe we'll kind of expand on some of the topics further because I think they branch into other areas that we can discuss. But yeah, if you liked what you heard, please make sure to subscribe to the channel wherever you are on whatever podcast media you're looking at. Follow us on the various socials. You can find them we have a link tree in the description. And one of the biggest areas that we've been posting on is definitely Instagram. So if you want to follow us on there, please do. And please reach out to us, join the Discord, all that fun stuff. But yeah. So thank you once again for listening. Once again, my name's Christian.
I'm Chris.
And we'll talk to you guys next week. All right. Bye.
Bye.